Dearest beloved divine friends and family, brothers and sisters, this is technically in the raw. Your brother Haji, Dr. Roshan Khan, with some important updates as to the reality as to what is going on. Some will be in the form of readings and part readings and discussion and opinion and views and so forth. There's a lot of talk about valid votes. Now, because the Caribbean Court of Appeal, one of the judges wanted to say something and said that there must be valid votes, they tried to create certain shenanigans and tricks and games in Guyana, and that has had to be coming from GCOM, particularly Mr. Mingo and obviously Mr. Lowenfield and a team with whoever are their handlers that they're working for and from. As you can see, everything is happening. You put the points together, you can know that Lowenfield is contaminated. Mingo, well, he is a spoiled egg, what we call in Guyanese parlance, ganda egg, a damaged egg. But Mingo definitely is out, but Lowenfield obviously has handlers and masters and is bringing great shame upon this country and upon himself. I don't know how these guys could watch their face in the mirror, that they want to steal a country, that they want to deny people the rights of their votes, and to deny the person who has won the presidency being president, and you want to be president, and your people want to be leaders so that you can continue with the mass theft and thievery. Not all people were stealing, but there are certain power brokers and individuals there who were dealing with the people on the outside, business people, international, local business people, and also particularly the two-lettered business magnate, two-lettered name business magnate in this country, ladies and gentlemen. Terrible things are happening in our country, big shame, even people are looking down upon our courts. We saw when our Court of Appeal was put to great shame. Unfortunately, I'm not disrespecting our courts, they have done their jobs, but many people are of the opinion, and from what's happening, that either they are incompetent or they are controlled. And as we saw what happened in the Caribbean Court of Appeal when they said 34 is the major part of 65, and that 32 is greater than 33, and we were put to shame internationally. I don't know if they don't understand and understand what they're doing when they do these kinds of things. It is also known, even in the United States of America, that political leaders, like particular judges in the Supreme Court, in the Court of Appeal, and in certain parts of the states and certain places, they like a particular judge, and so they do all they can to ensure the judge that they want, that is answerable to them and not really to law of the land. It's sad that judges would do this kind of injustice to a country or to a nation. I cannot critique the judge, but I'm just saying what is generally a consensus and an opinion, because I'm not doing their jobs. But when Justice Don Gregory Bonds was speaking and reading from her presentation, one could see from the voice that it was trembling. It was trembling. I can't say, and I don't know what to say, and I probably shouldn't say more than that, but I'm a very depressed person in this country. This morning I was actually in tears. Today I was in tears even in my office as I prepare to vacate. But I was in tears, not for that, I was in tears to what they're doing in this country. Imagine the president invited CARICOM sent them away in disgrace through a court order launched by candidate of the PNC and the APNU. And when the case finished, re-invited them and said that CARICOM is the most important interlocutor. I like that word. Interlocutor. But when it came to an end, he will not accept. And somehow or the other, it seems that he are of opinion, and the party that is the caretaker government, that CARICOM should have made a decision in their favor, contrary to wisdom, intelligence, and the facts at hand. So they're talking a lot about valid votes. Ladies and gentlemen, that whole shenanigan that they created, especially in the PPPC strongholds in the Lower East Coast area of Region 4. Imagine Mingo passed instructions not to put the books in there, so they calculatedly were trying since then to create deception so that these books will not be in there. The votes were well calculated and tallied, but certain books were not in there. So you can see that the plan was unfolding long before the date of the election because of the words of a judge in the CCJ that it must be credible. So they're trying to make things incredible or not credible. They say. And then they said it must be valid votes. Has to be valid. It has to be credible to be valid. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you something. I was an observer, and I want to show you this very well, and then my operator will show it on the screen later on. He will show it on the screen up there. Look on top here very well, ladies and gentlemen. Total number of valid votes for all parties, list of candidates. And this, okay, this for an example, this is Makuria Primary, Region 3, and name of Compton Clerk, Carolyn Garden. And the signature of the Compton Clerk is here, and the signature of all the observers, Mahipal Ganesh and so on, are here, and at that time we were allowed to sign. So here you have even Roshan Khan. The GCOM, Low and Field, keep on changing things. We couldn't get this anymore. It is so special, we must not get it as local observers. But we still get it, thanks to technology. And then we can't get these copies anymore. They won't give it to us, who are local observers. So you can see the game was to frustrate and annoy and upset. And all these people who signed on, ladies and gentlemen, the party agents and all the local observers. And in this case, fortunately, I signed. And you can see my signature is here, Roshan Khan in letters. For this one, I just show you an example. But the most important thing I'm trying to show you, ladies and gentlemen, is total number of valid votes for all parties, lists of candidates. In this case, it was 003. Well, it's a very small area. Let me take another one. This is for Kuru Kaburu Primary School and Station 1, ballot box number 815. And the total number of votes, 224. Total number of valid votes for all parties, list of candidates. and so on. Then tell you what is rejected. Then tells you every marked ballots 000 and so on. Total number of votes cast at the polling station 225. So one was unmarked and then cast aside and was signed for by Mark Fraser, the signature of counting clerk, ladies and gentlemen. Then you have the signature of all those people who were there witnessing. So it says number of valid votes. So the votes were already valid. Those things that they brought up without evidence, which were never objected to, are the places of poll, but they keep on bringing up this thing for this valid votes or invalid thing to be questionable. And Mr. Lowenfield is holding on to those accusations as sacrosanct or holy to his opinion, and causing so much of pain and shame in our country and disgracing us internationally. So friends and families, let me give you an opinion that came out this morning by no other than hero, political, accountant. Well, he's like a politician, you know, Christopher Ram. He's quite a political person, but he's not a member of any political party. He's an accountant, he's a lawyer, but he stands usually like Freddie Kissoon and yours truly for what is right. I might have to make a decision soon because I can't tolerate these kinds of nonsense and choose a political side and start fighting for what I believe. And remember, I'm retiring. Very shortly I'm handing over and I'm coming out of this thing here. So I cannot be sabotaged or blackmailed by anyone, so to say. Taken from INews Guyana, June 22, 2020, and it is in the other newspapers as well. Nagamootoo clutching a tin air. And I'm going to start reading, ladies and gentlemen. An opinion piece written by political commentator Christopher Ram. Shortly after the decision of the Court of Appeal in the case brought by Eslin David versus GCOM, in which a number of others were joined, the office of the Prime Minister issued a statement which concluded that on the basis of the valid votes, the incumbent coalition government will be re-elected for a second term. That is an absolute and dangerous nonsense, says Christopher Ram. The Prime Minister is, of course, an attorney at law with some considerable experience. He is therefore presumed to understand how to read and understand judgments of the court. He must be aware that the applicant, clearly financed and supported by the coalition, sought 6 separate orders and or declarations. Of these, 5 were dispatched in short order and rejected. The commentary, ladies and gentlemen. So the one seeking the injunction, stopping the declaration and the official recount from being declared and the swearing of the new president was dispatched in short order and rejected, according to Christopher Ram. I'm only interested in law and order, a procedure and system. Some people misconstrue my views and opinions because I sound a bit vociferous and because I'm against whom some people may love, or it appears I'm against them. I'm not against them or anybody. It may appear so because of the things I say and I critique and the things that I read. And even though it's read by many, it's because of the style I read. Please pay attention. According to Christopher Ram, among those rejected were declarations that 1. A declaration that GCOM failed to act in accordance with the terms of the recount order number 60 of 2020, which was carefully crafted to favor the APNU and AFC. This was thrown out. I'm reading it again. A declaration that GCOM failed to act in accordance with the terms of the recount order 60 of 2020, which was carefully crafted to favor the APNU and AFC. Thrown out. an order restraining Lloyd Field from complying with the direction of the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission in relation to Article 177, which would give the presidency to Irfan Ali. Thrown out. Listen to me carefully. Let me read it back again. Number 3, an order restraining Lloyd Field from complying with the direction of the chairman of the Guyana Election Commission in a letter dated the 16th day of June 2020 to submit an elections report under Section 96 of the Representation of the People's Act, without the Guyana Elections Commission determining the final credible count and or credibility of the result of the general and regional elections. Thrown out. And ladies and gentlemen, the one before that, which I said I was going to give you back, an order that was number 2, but I give you number 3, which is pertinent. An order restraining Lloyd Field from complying with the direction of the chairman of the Elections Commission in relation to Article 177(2)(b, which would give the presidency to Irfan Ali. That was thrown out. So my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture is that the chairman could proceed and do her job. And if Lloyd Field doesn't do it, you can get the number 2. And if the number 2 doesn't do it, then you can get somebody else to do it. Number 4, an order restraining the Chief Elections Officer from submitting to the Guyana Elections Commission an elections report under Article 177(2)(b) of the Constitution containing votes which are not credible within the meaning of the Order number 60 of 2020. Thrown out. An order restraining the Chief Elections Officer from submitting to the Elections Commission an elections report under Section 96 of the Representation of the People's Act, which allocates regional and top-up seats to the parties. Thrown out. So what is it that remains? Some people are dancing and jumping that the president will be sworn in, and here's a man like Moses Nagamootoo, desperate for this power and the appointment he was promised. Whether it's a seat in parliament, or whatever he was promised, or an advisory to the presidency, whatever. He's saying that the president will be sworn in. And this is giving pluck to people out there to misbehave and for them to think and to have an expectation. Very dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. In other words, according to Christopher Ram, the court granted to David and the coalition nothing of substance or value. Nagamootoo is playing at thin air. I'll read that back. Christopher Ram. In other words, the court granted to David and the coalition nothing of substance or value. Nagamootoo is clutching at thin air. What makes it dangerous is that he knows what he has said is completely baloney, but that there will be persons who will believe what he says because he's the Prime Minister. So he's playing with people's head, which could cause confusion, riot, and violence, injuries, destruction, and even death. For things like this, the police or a proper police force need to look at these things, and the DPP, if anything happens, these persons can be arrested for giving false information and encouraging lawlessness to take place in the land. These are my views, ladies and gentlemen, and not Christopher Ram. I go back to Christopher Ram now. The only order which the court granted was that there be an interpretation of the words, more votes are cast in Article 177(2)(b) of the Constitution of Guyana. The court ruled that this means valid votes, while rejecting the attempt to have inserted the notion of credible votes. So ridiculous. So now they want credible votes, and that credible means valid. And if it was not credible, therefore it is not valid. My opinion and my viewpoint here. It is a bold thing for any court to insert any words in a statute. And worse, when that statute is the supreme law. Lord mercy, in Thompson versus Goulds 1910 said, "It is a strong thing to read into an Act of Parliament words which are not there, and in the absence of clear necessity," emphasis added, his emphasis, "it is a wrong thing to do." I recall Chancellor Messiah endorsing these words in the Muhammad Ali case, and it remains a sound advice. I'm not criticizing the courts for doing so, except to say that they must be aware that votes must mean valid votes, since it would be an absurdity to think that an unlawful, illegal, fake or spot vote would be considered a valid vote. In fact, Section 87 of the Representation of the People's Act spell out the votes which must be rejected as invalid and not counted for any candidate or party. Nagamootoo must be aware that both the statements of polls which showed that the APNU and AFC had lost the elections and the statements of recounts which were endorsed by GCOM, local and international observers, and the CARICOM scrutineering team counted only valid votes as divined by ROPA. Both the statements of poll are reading apart again, which showed that the APNU and AFC had lost the elections, and the statements of recounts which were endorsed by GCOM, local international observers, and the CARICOM scrutineering team counted only valid votes by ROPA. Nagamootoo and his portfolio of Chronicle and Department of Public Information are playing a very dangerous and opportunistic game in building the hopes of the supporters of the coalition, when in fact their court options are running out. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what this man is saying. He's giving a warning to Moses Nagamootoo and to the APNU AFC. Are playing a very dangerous and opportunistic game in building the hopes of the supporters of the coalition, when in fact even their court options are running out. The decision by the Court of Appeal has added nothing and has taken away nothing from the March elections. Repeat, the decision of the Court of Appeal has added nothing and has taken away nothing from the March elections. At the end of all this shenanigans and time wasting that is costing the country billions, Nagamootoo and his coalition will be seen as poor losers, says Mr. Christopher Arm. But ladies and gentlemen, they're bleeding our treasury. We have a broken country. They're paying their friends and families promises. They're fulfilling obligations to their donors who assisted them financially, and giving away tens of thousands of acres and hundreds of thousands of acres of prime lands and opportunities to their friends and to their families and the two-lettered business name magnate, ladies and gentlemen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to one more piece on this presentation, and that will be Freddie Kissoon. My opinion, Claudette Singh is not restrained by the court's decision. I agree with that too. Ladies and gentlemen, please wear your mask. Please be careful. Careful how you're holding your mask. Do not hold the front and then scratch your face inside, and so on, because you're actually taking the COVID, which might be out here, into your mouth and your nose if you're scratching. Be careful, please. Spray periodically with Environ from DDL. Remember to sanitize, please. Protect yourself, care yourself. Protect yourself, and if you have, rub it if you have other open areas. Remember to move your rings in between, in between, in between. My opinion, Claudette Singh is not restrained by the court's decision. I'm reading directly from the newspapers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm typing this piece here before I could read the different interpretations of the legal minds of the Court of Appeal decision. And this is Freddie Kissoon taken from Kaieteur News. But this I know as a layman, the CCJ will not accept the 2020 election as fraudulent if it does not see the evidence in front of it. I can tell you there's no evidence. They just lists that they brought out, and 99% of them was thrown out. 99.9%, ladies and gentlemen, to the article. This is my position in the Court of Appeal decision. If Claudette Singh does not declare a winner, which she legally can, the PPP will go to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Once more, the CCJ will give a decision that reflects purely on Guyana's jurisprudence. First, we had the Court of Appeal affirming President Granger's right to appoint a GCOM chairman on his own after he did not find a fit and proper person from an opposition compilation of 18 names. So he appointed Mr. Patterson, a very sick man and very active in the caretaker government and also when there were government business and affairs. And from discussions that I had with him, and I saw otherwise through the institution that I belong, you could see that he is a game player, unfortunately, for a man of that caliber as a senior judge in this country. Back to the article. The CCJ clearly showed that the Carter-Price formula in the Guyana Constitution was explicit in its intention to remove the unilateral capacity of the President and that he had to make a selection based on Carter-Price article in the Constitution. Next was the question of what constituted a majority of 65. The judges in the Court of Appeal ruled that the majority of 65 starts at 34 and not 33. When the court was judged before the CCJ, one judge had no nonsense words to say about the fiction of 34 constituting a majority of 65. Imagine what shape we became internationally, ladies and gentlemen, my commentary. Imagine, internationally they're telling the world that 33 is not more than 32. We're back to the article. We will now go to the CCJ Lowenfield's macabre declaration that a substantial majority of ballots were fraudulent without substantial evidence. Once you are dealing with a court of law, evidence becomes the fundamental requirement that guide judges. The main dimension of the election drama that one must bear in mind at all times is the fact that the international community will not take into consideration any court pronouncement in its foreign policy decision on the legitimacy of the re-election of David Granger. The die is cast, and as I write, international society believe that the afternoon AFC lost the 2020 election, and it will not recognize the Granger presidency. The list includes the EU, the USA, Canada, Commonwealth, and the OAS. CARICOM has not pronounced on its attitude if Granger is sworn in, but two issues are important when one looks at how CARICOM will move. One is the pronouncement of the CARICOM team that the election reflected the will of the electorate. Secondly, the incoming chairman is of the opinion that Granger has lost. How, against these two graphic facts, CARICOM is going to accept the swearing-in of Granger. Whatever GCOM does after this court decision, the important international actors are essential for the survival of Guyana. Will not accept an APNU and AFC government because of two reasons. It opens the door to a flourish of rigged elections in the world, and as a spin-off form that gives legitimacy to unelected regimes. In other words, if this was to be allowed, ladies and gentlemen, who may not understand, it will give tyrannical government, deceitful people to rule with deceit, and the spin-off would be, it will give legitimate votes to unelected elected regimes, proper votes, would go to unelected people who will want to rule and control a country or a nation. One of the constituents in the APNU and AFC entity, the Justice for All party, has called upon his own party to acknowledge defeat. The leader of the AFC has virtually conceded defeat. Why then would international society disregard the validity, the CARICOM report and the documentation from their own observer missions and recognize the government of APNU AFC? It is not going to happen, says Freddie Kissoon. I don't believe, even in their wildest imagination, the APNU and AFC leadership will sit comfortably in office if GCOM, for one reason or the other, catapults the APNU AFC into power, based on the mesmeric tampering of the election, with the dirty and stink tampering of the election. Even if GCOM does that and swears them in, the world will not accept it. And they will take sanctions, according to his opinion and explanation here. Back to him. They know such powers will be fleeting, lasting perhaps only months. They will not be able to stay in power. They will be broken in months. I don't know what GCOM will do. It is anyone's guess. Speaking personally, I'm not a fan of Claudette Singh. My layman's knowledge tells me that the court ruling imposed no restraint on Singh. It simply tells her how she must interpret what valid votes mean. She has the power to do that, and in doing so, she cannot be faulted because the court recognizes that GCOM has the constitutional authority to make its own interpretations. Again, from my layperson's knowledge, I think GCOM can arrive at valid votes count because there is nothing in the Court of Appeal decision that prevents an interpretation of valid votes based on the CARICOM report. Here's my take. Saying should summon Lowenfield, correct his report, interpret what valid vote based on the CARICOM recount process, and declare a winner. Then another meeting does not require a quorum but a simple majority of commissioners. I know in my heart Singh is not going to do that, but I believe in my heart that is the legal and the morally right thing to do. I agree with that too, ladies and gentlemen. Even if it was the other side who was supposed to vote, and if the PPPC were objecting to them, if they were supposed to be sworn in as president, and even if the PPPC objected, but to my opinion and what is righteous, they should have been voted, then I would have supported them. In this case, the PPPC has won, Dr. Irfan Ali has won, and should be sworn in as the president of Guyana. Some of you people who get emotional and you make outbursts, and people like me or Freddie Kissoon or Christopher Ram, you threaten and you abuse and you curse on social media, you write nasty things. It shows your upbringing. It shows your parents did a bad job, your teachers did a bad job, and it probably shows also your DNA component, what you have in you. What you have in you, you nasty behaved people out there, is what comes out of you. So it's what you have in there. And if it's nasty, you need to change it. Sincerely, dear friends and family, let's hope we can have some sense and the people can be sworn in and we can move on. And they need a serious injunction, ladies and gentlemen. They should not be spending our monies on anything frivolous, and they should be stopped from certifying land deals to friends and families and transferring government properties to friends and families. Remember, the government don't own nothing. The government are administrators hired by the people. So the property and everything, the lands and everything, the seashore and the seabeds and the water and the smallest piece of fish belongs to the people. Your friend, your brother, me, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan saying thank you for tuning in and farewell friends.